The invasion wasn't war. It was slaughter, until she made it myth. The holographic projection flickered in the cramped briefing room of the Aurora, casting blue shadows across Dr. Celine Doran's face. She stood rigid, arms crossed, gray eyes fixed on the rotating image of planet G-301 as Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the encrypted channel. Dr. Doran, you understand the stakes. We've lost 3 colonies in the past month. The Zephyri advance shows no signs of slowing. Celine's jaw tightened. I understand, Admiral. The United Planets Council has authorized this mission as Priority Alpha. If the myths about the ancients contain even a fragment of truth, if there's technology on G-301 we can leverage, it might be our only chance. She glanced at Elias, who stood beside her. His blue eyes were steady and calm despite the weight of the Admiral's words. His uniform was crisp, perfect, a stark contrast to her own hastily secured hair and the dark circles beneath her eyes. How long do we have? Elias asked, his voice measured. A week. Perhaps less. The Zephyri are consolidating forces for a final push on Earth's outer defenses. The hologram dissolved. Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Elias moved first, his hand finding the small of Celine's back. The touch was brief, grounding. We'll make it work, he said. Celine nodded, unable to speak past the constriction in her throat. She pulled away, moving to the navigation console. G-301 is in a forgotten sector. Multi-week jump from both human and Zephyri territory. The data we have is fragmentary at best, survey scans from 40 years ago, before the war started. Which is why it hasn't been picked clean already, Elias observed. He stepped to the helm controls, fingers dancing across the interface. I've plotted a route through the blockade. 3 jumps. High risk, but it keeps us off the main shipping lanes. The Zephyri will be scanning for any anomalous activity. They always are. His smile was small, warm, infuriating in its confidence. Trust me, Cell. I've gotten us through worse. She wanted to argue, to point out the statistical improbability of their survival, to remind him of the 17 ships lost last month attempting similar maneuvers. Instead, she turned toward the crew quarters. Brief the team. We launch in 2 hours. The Aurora shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace, alarms shrieking across the bridge. Celine gripped the edge of her station, knuckles white, while Elias wrestled with the controls. Structural integrity holding, Lieutenant Torres called from engineering. Barely. Gravitational anomalies everywhere, Celine muttered, scanning the data flooding her screens. The entire planet is radiating non-standard energy signatures. Through the viewport, G-301 materialized, a sphere shrouded in orange-gray haze, its surface obscured by perpetual atmospheric murk. No cities, no lights, no signs of life. Dead. Abandoned. Forgotten. Perfect. Taking us down, Elias announced. His hands moved with practiced precision, guiding the ship through the thickening atmosphere. Celine, you seeing these readings? Confirming. Residual energy consistent with advanced technological activity. Her pulse quickened despite her exhaustion. Elias, there's something here. Something big. The ship descended through layers of haze, sensors struggling to penetrate the interference. When they finally broke through into clearer air, the landscape below stole Celine's breath. Monolithic black obelisks jutted from the petrified gray surface like broken teeth. Their surfaces gleamed with time-worn glyphs, angular, wrong, featuring impossible geometries impossible to replicate with human or Zephyri mathematics. My God, Torres whispered. Elias didn't respond. He maneuvered the Aurora toward a desolate crater, engines screaming as he fought against unpredictable wind shears. The landing gear deployed with a pneumatic hiss, and the ship settled onto the dust with a metallic groan. For a moment, nobody moved. "Welcome to hell," Sergeant Reeves said from the tactical station, his attempt at humor falling flat. Celine was already unbuckling her restraints. "Suit up. Full containment protocols. We don't understand what we're dealing with yet." The away team assembled in the airlock: Celine, Elias, Torres, Reeves, and 4 security personnel. Through the reinforced viewport, the alien landscape waited, patient and indifferent. Elias checked the seals on Celine's helmet himself, fingers lingering a moment longer than necessary. "Be careful," he said quietly. "Always am." "Liar." She almost smiled. The airlock cycled open. Cold, arid air rushed in, carrying the scent of ozone and ancient ash. A low-frequency thrumming vibrated through Celine's bones, not heard, but felt, as if the planet itself were a dormant machine humming with residual power. The dust beneath their boots was petrified, compressed by unimaginable age into something almost like stone. Crystalline formations jutted from the surface at irregular intervals, frozen organic structures that resembled the skeletons of buildings. Gravitational reading spiking, Torres reported, eyes fixed on her handheld scanner. "Source is approximately 2 kilometers northeast." "Move out," Elias ordered. He positioned himself at Celine's side while Reeves took point with the security team. They marched across the dead world in silence. The obelisks loomed above them, covered in glyphs featuring 135° and 45° angles instead of the familiar 90° geometry. Celine's scientific mind raced, cataloging, analyzing, desperate to understand. The ancients had existed. The myths were real. After an hour of trekking, Reeves raised a fist. "Contact. 12 o'clock. Ahead, partially buried beneath rockfall, a colossal structure emerged from the surface. Not built, grown. The architecture was organic, flowing, as if the building had been shaped from living stone by some unfathomable process. Its surface shimmered with the same impossible glyphs. "It's massive," Torres breathed. "My scans can't penetrate more than a few meters. There's some kind of shielding." Celine approached, hand extended. When her gloved fingers touched the surface, warmth radiated through the material. "Active. After millennia, still active." "We need to get inside," she said. The entrance took 6 hours to breach. They used modified Zephyr drilling technology, stolen, reverse-engineered, barely understood, to cut through the outer layers. Celine supervised every cut, every adjustment, her exhaustion forgotten in the face of discovery. When the final layer parted, it didn't slide or crumble. It simply disappeared, atoms rearranging themselves to create a perfectly seamless passage. "What the hell?" Reeves muttered. Celine stepped through first, against protocol, against Elias's shouted objections. The chamber beyond swallowed her flashlight beam. As her eyes adjusted, she gasped. The vault was vast, cathedral vast, its walls composed of techno-organic carapace that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The air was warm, sterile, utterly still. No dust. No decay. As if time itself had no dominion here. In the center, suspended within a cage of seamless jade alloy, a spherical construct rotated slowly. Living light churned within its core, casting dancing shadows across the chamber. It emitted a soft, harmonic tone that resonated through Celine's body, not through her ears, but through her bones, her cells, her very atoms. "Dr. Doran, report," Elias's voice crackled through the comm she couldn't answer. Words failed. Before her was technology beyond human comprehension, beyond Zephyr arrogance. This was the work of gods. The team filed in behind her, weapons raised, scanners humming. Torres approached the console nearest the construct, her movements hesitant, reverent. "These runes," she whispered. "They're similar to the external markings but more complex. Layered. As if they contain multiple meanings simultaneously." Celine forced herself forward, professional instinct overriding all. She examined the console, fingers hovering above symbols she couldn't read but somehow understood on an intuitive level. This isn't a weapon, she said. Or rather, it's not primarily a weapon. It's something else. A reality-manipulating device. Capable of rewriting space-time, matter, energy. Her voice trembled. The theoretical applications are infinite. Can we use it? Reeves asked bluntly. I don't, Celine paused. I need time. Weeks, months of study. We can't simply activate something like this without understanding the consequences. Her comm unit chirped. Elias's voice cut through, sharp with urgency. Celine, we have a problem. The jamming tech is failing, and long-range Zephyr scout vessels are closing in fast. Zephyr? Who else? They're closing fast. Maybe 2 hours. 2 hours. 2 hours to make sense of technology that should require lifetimes of research. Celine's hands clenched into fists. The exhaustion crashed over her again, the weight of too many losses, too many failures. Earth's outer colonies, burning. Refugees streaming through failing defensive lines. Doctor? Torres was watching her, waiting. Elias's voice came through again. Cell, we need to decide. Extract now, or commit. She closed her eyes. Saw the faces of the dead. If they ran, the Zephyr would claim this vault, weaponize its power, and humanity would cease to exist. We don't have a choice, she said quietly. Captain Grant, maintain defensive perimeter. Deploy whatever countermeasures we have left. We're going active. Silence on the comm. She could picture Elias's expression, the war between his duty and his heart. Understood, he finally said. Be careful. The connection severed. Celine approached the console, her team gathering behind her. Dr. Doran, without proper testing, Torres began. I understand the risks, Lieutenant. Do you? Reeves's voice was hard. Because from where I'm standing, this looks like desperation. It is desperation, Sergeant. Celine met his gaze. But desperation is all we have left. She turned to the console. Her fingers traced the glyphs, seeking pattern, seeking logic. The ancients had been masters of mathematics, of universal constants. She found it. A series of runes that pulsed with stronger luminescence than the others, arranged in a progression that mirrored the golden ratio. Activating now, she announced. Her finger touched the first glyph. The construct's light shifted from soft white to brilliant, chaotic blue. The harmonic tone became a shriek, piercing and alien. The jade cage rotated faster, fragments of incomprehensible data streaming across every surface. Power surge, Torres shouted over the noise. Off the scale. The construct erupted. A wave of searing, exotic radiation exploded outward from the central sphere. Celine threw herself behind the massive console. Heat washed over her, so intense her suit's cooling systems screamed in protest. Screams filled the chamber. Human screams, raw and agonized. Their veins began to glow with internal light. When the wave passed, Celine staggered upright. Her hands shook. Smoke obscured her vision. Screams stopped. The chamber fell silent except for the construct's renewed harmonic tone. The affected personnel, 7 of them, rose in perfect synchronization. Their movements were fluid, wrong, as if their bodies were being piloted by something other than human consciousness. When they turned toward Celine, their eyes were void black. Pupil, iris, sclera, all consumed by absolute darkness. Dr. Doran, Torres said. Her voice was flat, emotionless, devoid of any inflection. The activation was successful. We have been elevated. Torres, what? We are no longer Torres, Reeves, or any designation of primitive nomenclature. The soldier who had been Reeves stepped forward, his movements angular and suddenly, impossibly fast. We are the prophets. We perceive the formula now. Celine backed away, hand moving to her sidearm. You're experiencing radiation-induced psychosis. Hallucinations from neural damage. Incorrect, the Prophet Torres said. Our neurons have been restructured for optimal processing. Emotion has been eliminated as an inefficient variable. Logic governs. She tilted her head at an inhuman angle. You should not have activated the device, Dr. Doran. But your error serves a purpose. One of the other prophets, Private Chen, Celine's mind supplied numbly, approached a technician who had been shielded by equipment during the blast. Please, he gasped. Chen, it's me, it's Davis. The prophet seized Davis by the throat. In one swift motion, faster than human reflexes should allow, he snapped the technician's neck. Davis crumpled. An illogical variable has been corrected, Prophet Chen said, studying the corpse with clinical detachment. His panic introduced chaos into the formula. Chaos must be eliminated. No. Celine drew her weapon, hands trembling. Stand down. All of you, stand down. The prophets regarded her with their void black eyes. You misunderstand your position, Prophet Torres said. We do not answer to emotional imperatives. We serve the formula. We serve the correction. Celine's calm crackled. Celine. Report. I heard weapons fire, Elias, we have a situation. The device, it changed them. They're not human anymore. Static. Then Elias's voice, strained. Fall back to the Aurora. Now. We have a bigger problem. Multiple hyperspace signatures. The Zephyri are here. Through the open passage, distant thunder rolled. Plasma weapons. Atmospheric entry burn. The vault's walls shuddered. The prophets turned toward the construct, moving in eerie synchronization. The signal has been broadcast, Prophet Reeves said. The ancients have been called. The experiment continues. What signal? Celine demanded. What have you done? But the prophets were already interfacing with the ancient technology, their glowing hands pressed against panels Celine hadn't even identified as interactive. Data streams erupted across the walls, formulas, equations, concepts far beyond human or Zephyri understanding. The activation sent an interstellar transmission, Prophet Torres explained without emotion. The ancients will return to inspect their crop. The Zephyri detected the same signal. Both forces converge. Horror crystallized in Celine's chest. They hadn't discovered a weapon. They'd triggered a beacon. A summons to forces humanity couldn't begin to comprehend. The chamber shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Celine, they're landing. Elias shouted. Drop pods, hundreds of them. We're about to be overrun. Defensive formation, she barked at the remaining human soldiers. Protect the console. Don't let the prophets access the core systems. But the prophets were already moving with that terrible, angular speed. One of them, Private Morgan, raised a hand. The nearest soldier simply stopped, frozen mid-step as if time itself had been paused around him. You cannot interfere with the correction. Prophet Morgan said. The soldier began to scream. His body contorted, joints bending in wrong directions. When Prophet Morgan lowered her hand, he collapsed, dead. Chaos erupted. Gunfire echoed through the vault. The remaining loyal soldiers opened fire on the prophets, but the mutated crew members moved like ghosts, dodging with prescient awareness. They wielded invisible forces, telekinesis, localized gravity manipulation. Overhead, the ceiling ruptured. Zephyri shock troops descended on rappel lines, their sleek armor glinting in the construct's blue light. They landed with predatory grace, weapons raised. The prophets turned on the new arrivals without hesitation. Three-way engagement, Celine gasped into her calm. Elias, we need extraction now. Working on it. Hold position. Hold position. Against an army of Zephyri elite warriors and 7 super-intelligent, emotionless monsters. The vault transformed into a slaughterhouse. Zephyri plasma bolts carved through the air. The prophets retaliated with invisible force. Celine crouched behind the console, weapon raised, picking her targets. A Zephyri trooper breached the perimeter, she fired twice, center mass. He dropped. Reload. Fire. Reload. Fire. Mechanical. Efficient. Emotion deleted, logic governing. She was becoming them. Celine. Elias's voice cut through the chaos. The Zephyri are about to breach your position. You have to fall back. We can't abandon the device. You don't have a choice. Through the smoke, through the carnage, she saw them. More Zephyri, dozens more, pouring through the ruptured ceiling like insects. Their formation was perfect, coordinated, overwhelming. They would reach the console in minutes. And then she saw him. Elias burst through the entrance, leading a squad of Aurora security personnel. His uniform was scorched, his face bleeding, but his eyes found hers across the battlefield. Get down, he roared. His team opened fire, laying down suppressing volleys that gave the defending soldiers precious seconds to retreat. Elias sprinted across the chamber, weaving through plasma fire with impossible luck. He reached her. His hands found her shoulders, solid and real. We have to go, he said. The device, doesn't matter if we're dead. More Zephyri flooded in. The prophets engaged them with ruthless efficiency. Celine understood the terrible truth. They had unleashed something they couldn't control. Elias, I know, he said quietly. Then, louder, to his team, fighting retreat. Covering fire, pattern delta. The Aurora personnel formed a defensive line. Plasma bolts carved through their ranks. 2 fell immediately, 3 more seconds later. The Zephyri were relentless. Elias pushed Celine toward the exit. Go. Now. Not without you. Celine, please, the console behind them erupted with new light. The construct spun faster. The prophets had completed their interface. The defense protocol activates, Prophet Torres announced. Biological catalyst required. Celine's blood turned to ice. What? But the prophets were already moving toward Elias. Their void-black eyes fixed on him with terrible certainty. No. Celine raised her weapon, but Elias shoved her aside. Run. He sprinted toward the console. Toward the heart of the unstable machine. He reached the core. His hands plunged into the streams of living light. Elias. Celine's scream tore from her throat. The construct blazed white-hot. Energy engulfed Elias's body, consuming him, drinking him. She saw his face for one eternal moment, saw him smile, warm and steady and unafraid. And then he was gone. Vaporized. Absorbed. Bound to the machine. The construct erupted with power. A shield exploded outward, a hemisphere of impossible force that repelled the Zephyri, that hurled the prophets away. When the light faded, Celine was alone. She knelt in the dust. The construct pulsed. And within its rhythms, she heard something. A pattern. A code. Elias's code. Incomplete. Waiting. She reached out with trembling fingers. Touched the surface. Felt warmth, his warmth, radiating through the cold metal. No, she whispered. No, no, no. The truth stared back at her from the data streams flowing across the walls. Elias wasn't dead. He was trapped. His consciousness woven into the ancient technology, a ghost in the machine, incomplete code waiting for completion. Waiting for her to finish what he'd started. The ring on the chain beneath her uniform suddenly felt impossibly heavy. Outside, ships descended. Zephyr reinforcements. The Prophet stirred, rising to continue their correction. And somewhere, across the vast emptiness of space, the ancients heard the beacon. They were coming. Dr. Celine Doran stood, weapon clenched in white-knuckled hands, surrounded by the dead and the dying, bound to a machine that contained her husband's soul. The nightmare was only beginning. Chapter 2, The Prophet Insurgency. The vault reeked of burnt ozone and death. Celine crouched behind the massive console, her fingers flying across interfaces she barely understood. She tried to make sense of the data streams flowing from the construct. The sphere pulsed with erratic light, white, blue, violet, each surge accompanied by that bone-deep harmonic tone. Somewhere within the machine, Elias existed. Not dead. Not alive. Trapped in binary and ancient code. She forced the thought away. Focus. Survive. Grieve later. Dr. Doran, movement on the North Passage, Corporal Hayes whispered from his position behind a collapsed support beam. 3 targets. No, 4-inch. The Prophets. Celine's jaw clenched. 5 superintelligent, emotionless killers remained. They viewed their former comrades as errors requiring correction. Hold fire, she ordered. Conserve ammunition. Doctor, with respect, they'll kill you before you pull the trigger, Corporal. Hayes's expression tightened, but he lowered the weapon slightly. Through the vault's damaged walls, Celine heard the distant roar of plasma weapons. Admiral Shervan was methodical, patient, and absolutely certain of his victory. He would breach the vault soon. And the Prophets were already inside. Dr. Doran. The voice emerged from the shadows, flat and emotionless. Lieutenant Kale, Prophet Kale, stepped into the construct's light. Your attempts to stabilize the device are inefficient. Celine's hand moved to her sidearm. Stay where you are, Lieutenant. I am not Lieutenant Kale. That designation is obsolete. We are Prophet. We serve the correction. You're experiencing severe neurological trauma. The radiation restructured our neural architecture for optimal processing. Prophet Kale gestured toward the console. The device contains a consciousness. Your mate. His biological catalyst initiated incomplete protocols. The casual mention of Elias sent ice through her veins. Don't. Emotion. Inefficient. Prophet Kale moved closer, his movements angular, predatory. The device must be exposed to external forces. The ancients will complete what your mate began. The synthesis will proceed. The ancients? Celine's mind raced. You're in contact with them. We perceive their purpose through the formula. The universal mathematical structure underlying existence. Your species and the Zephyr are crops requiring harvest and fusion. The process has begun. Behind Prophet Kale, 2 more transformed crew members emerged. Prophet Morgan, her movements eerily synchronized with Kale's. Prophet Reeves, his massive frame now lean and angular. Hayes raised his rifle. Doctor, hold. Prophet Reeves raised one hand. The nearest support beam, solid metal, 3 inches thick, simply crumpled, folded in on itself. We calculate a 97% probability of successfully breaching the containment field within the next 42 minutes, Prophet Kale stated. Celine's pulse hammered. If you breach the containment field, the device will overload. The resulting explosion will vaporize this entire region. Death is acceptable if it advances the correction. Prophet Kale's void-black eyes never blinked. He moved. Faster than human reflexes should allow, Prophet Kale lunged toward the console. Hayes fired, 3 rapid bursts, but the Prophet dodged. Prophet Morgan extended her hand toward Private Kim. Kim's scream cut short as invisible force seized her throat. Cease. Celine grabbed debris and hurled it at Prophet Morgan. The Prophet crushed it to powder. An emotional reaction, Prophet Morgan observed. Kim's body went limp. Rage ignited in Celine's chest. Pure, white-hot fury. Her fault. Hayes and the remaining soldiers opened fire. Prophet Reeves gestured, and a section of floor erupted upward, forming an impromptu barrier. Fall behind the console. Celine ordered. They retreated. The console offered minimal cover, but resisted the Prophet's manipulation. We're pinned, Hayes gasped. Doctor, we need options. Celine's mind raced. They would breach the field and expose the relic to the ancients. She turned to the console. She recognized patterns. Elias's patterns. Elias, she whispered. If you can hear me, I need help. The construct pulsed. A new data stream appeared, formulae that shouldn't exist. Instinctively, she understood. The containment field could be weaponized. Her fingers flew across the interface. Energy gathered within the jade alloy cage. Dr. Doran ceases defensive posture, Prophet Kale announced. Stop her. Prophet Morgan commanded. The barrier of erupted floor began to crumble. Celine entered the final sequence. The construct erupted. A hemisphere of translucent energy exploded outward. The field caught Prophet Reeves, hurling him against the far wall. Prophet Kale resisted, blood leaking from his ears. The field surged forward. Prophet Kale flew backward, crashing to land in a motionless heap. The energy barrier stabilized, forming a protective dome. Celine sagged against the console. The machine was burning through its reserves at an unsustainable rate. It was consuming Elias. Doctor, are they dead? Hayes asked. No, Celine said. They're adapting. We bought time, nothing more, the vault shuddered. Artillery fire, massive and coordinated. The Zephyr, Hayes whispered. Celine accessed the external sensors. The Zephyr fleet had repositioned. The defensive perimeter lasted 17 minutes. Human soldiers fought desperately, but Admiral Shiven's forces moved with surgical efficiency. Hayes reported, 2 minutes until they breach our position. Seal the entrance, Celine ordered. They worked frantically, using debris and welding equipment. The entrance exploded inward. Through the haze, Celine saw them, tall, elegant figures in technologically enhanced armor. Zephyr. The shock troops entered with practiced efficiency. Hayes raised his weapon. Doctor, don't, Celine said quietly. We're outnumbered 20-1. Stand down, Corporal. That's an order. Hayes lowered his rifle. The Zephyr advanced. One of them, Admiral Zarek Shervan, stepped forward. His violet eyes fixed on her with detached certainty. Dr. Celine Doran, he said. You will accompany us. Resistance is inefficient. You will surrender the ancient device immediately. Human superstitions are irrelevant, Shervan said. Your species has no comprehension of technology beyond your primitive level. The Zephyr will correct your errors. We will weaponize this technology and complete what should have been accomplished centuries ago, the permanent removal of humanity from this sector. He stepped closer to the energy barrier. Impressive. Begin transport preparations. You can't, Celine said. The device is bound to a biological catalyst. We'll accelerate our research. Acceptable risk. You will assist in the transfer. You misunderstand your situation, Dr. Doran. Shivan's violet eyes locked onto hers. Your soldiers will be terminated as combat inefficiencies. Let them go, she said quietly. I'll cooperate. Give you whatever assistance you need. An emotional bargain. How human. It is acknowledgement of efficiency. Shirvan ordered his troops to escort the humans out. When Celine turned her attention forward, Shirvan stood before the barrier. Lower the containment field, he ordered. No, she said. The field stays active until we establish proper transport protocols. The Zephyri do not tolerate inefficiency, Dr. Doran. Remember this. The vault shuddered. Deeper. More fundamental. The walls rippled. Admiral, detecting massive energy signatures entering the system. Sir, they're not approaching. They're already here. The ceiling ruptured. Enormous ships, organic, biological, descended. They moved with impossible grace, silent except for a low, thrumming pulse that Celine recognized. The same pulse as the construct. What is this? Shirvan demanded, his monotone breaking slightly. Celine's blood turned to ice. The ancients. The ships released a mist, golden, shimmering. It descended through the ruptured ceiling. Shivan's soldiers opened fire. The mist absorbed the energy. The mist touched the ground. And the screaming started. Celine watched the horror unfold. Zephyri soldiers and human defenders began to fuse at a cellular level, creating writhing, agonizing hybrids. Their screams harmonized into a single, inhuman wail. Shirvan stared at the tactical display, his expression frozen. What? They're not invading. They're gardening, Celine said. She accessed the construct's data streams. The mathematics of forced evolution. They see us as crops, she said. Raw genetic material requiring harvest and fusion. To them, we're ingredients. Variables in an equation. Impossible. The Zephyri are superior, they don't care about superiority. They're accelerating evolution through brute force. Shivan's eyes widened fractionally. The tactical display erupted with new alarms. Colony Vex, Shirvan breathed. No. Celine accessed the transmission. Colony Vex, a major Zephyri civilian settlement, appeared on screen. Gravity beams descended. The Zephyri civilians were being harvested. Consumed. Utilized. A child screamed for its mother. Shirvan stood motionless, watching his people die. They don't see you as enemies, Celine said. They don't see you as anything except resources. Fertilizer for their cosmic gardens. The transmission cut to static. Colony Vex had ceased to exist. Shivan's expression remained blank, but Celine saw something break behind those violet eyes. The arrogant certainty. Gone. 3 million, he finally whispered. 3 million Zephyri. Your conflict with my people. Our war. It's meaningless, Celine finished. Compared to this. Release Dr. Doran, he ordered in Zephyri. I miscalculated. Catastrophically. He extended a tactical data pad toward her. The threat is not humanity. We must collaborate. Immediately. Hatred roared through Celine. Her husband's killers. Doctor, Shirvan said, his monotone cracking slightly. I comprehend your emotional response. But if we do not unite now, both our species will become fertilizer. Celine's hand trembled as she reached for the data pad. If you betray this alliance, she said quietly, I will kill you myself. Understood. Celine turned to the construct. I need to access the device's full capabilities. Expand the containment field to protect everyone inside the vault. But Elias does, she affirmed. The construct responded instantly. Data streams erupted. Elias's patterns, his consciousness, reaching out. Celine interfaced. I need the shield expanded. Can you help me? Affirmation pulsed through the connection. Energy gathered within the jade alloy cage. Everyone behind the console. Celine shouted. Shivan's soldiers scrambled. Enemies becoming allies through desperation. Celine entered the sequence Elias provided. The construct erupted. The containment field exploded outward, expanding into a massive dome. The golden mist recoiled. The prophets were hurled aside. Silence descended. It's working, Celine gasped. We're protected. How long will this hold? Shirvan asked. Celine read the data. It's consuming the biological catalyst. Elias. The machine is burning his consciousness as fuel. Can it be stopped? Not without dropping the shield. Unacceptable. I'm trying to find another power source, but the ancient technology requires biological integration. Dr. Doran. Shivan's voice was quiet. If we cannot stop the ancients, what is our probability of survival? 0, she said. Outside the shield, reality began to warp. Gravity reversed momentarily. Visions flooded her mind. Alternate timelines. Versions of existence where humanity and the Zephyri were already one species, a hive mind collective. They're not just changing us biologically, Celine whispered. They're rewriting history. We need another solution, she asserted. But he's burning out. What solution? The ancient technology is incomprehensible. Not to them. Celine gestured toward the prophets. They've been transformed. Enhanced. They can interface with ancient systems in ways we can't. They attempted to kill us minutes ago. Because they were following the ancients' programming. But what if we could reprogram them? An interesting hypothesis. Unlikely to succeed. You have a better option. Silence. The ancients will complete their harvest. Both our species will cease to exist as independent entities. You propose alliance not from choice, but from mathematical certainty. Yes. Efficient. Shirvan extended his hand. We collaborate. For survival. Celine stared at the offered hand. She clasped Shivan's hand. For survival, she agreed. The construct pulsed, Elias's consciousness burning bright. They would fight. The ancient ships thrummed above them, waiting to harvest their crops. But not today. Not yet. Chapter 3, The Synthesis of the Nullifier. The Void Piercer's engineering bay reeked of burnt circuitry and desperation. Celine's hands moved across the interface. Human tactical AI modules, Zephyri crystal energy drives, and fragments of the ancient relic were assembled into the nullifier matrix. Structural integrity at 47%, Admiral Shirvan announced. The fusion process is accelerating beyond projected parameters. Celine focused on calibration. One miscalculation, and the flagship would vaporize. Through the viewport, ancient ships swarmed. Entire star systems, restructured. Dr. Doran, the crystal lattice requires recalibration, called Prophet Torres. Increase the resonance frequency by 0.3%, Celine ordered. Compliance. The matrix approaches stable configuration. The nullifier matrix was fundamentally unstable. Celine's fingers paused above the final interface panel. Human ingenuity, Zephyri technology, and ancient power, forced into a single system. Admiral, are you certain about this? She asked. Certainty is irrelevant, Dr. Doran. The mathematics are absolute. And with the matrix, we might destroy ourselves faster. A calculated risk. Celine's hand trembled. Elias's presence was constant now, a ghost woven into every system they touched. She closed her eyes. Trust yourself, Cell. You can do this. Activating integration sequence, she announced. The components began to merge. Warning alarms shrieked. Power spike. Prophet Torres called. Redirect auxiliary power to stabilizers. Celine shouted. Shervan, I need those crystal drives dampened by 15%. Shervan complied. The nullifier matrix settled into a fragile equilibrium. Integration successful, Prophet Torres confirmed. Probability of successful deployment, 63.4%. There is no time for additional testing, Shervan interrupted. The ancients have begun harvesting operations in the Kepler sector. We must deploy the weapon immediately. If we fire without proper calibration, we could trigger a cascade failure. It could destabilize entire systems. An acceptable risk compared to certain extinction. Dr. Doran, I comprehend your scientific caution. But we exist in the final hours before annihilation. The Admiral is correct, Prophet Torres added. Immediate action is mathematically optimal. Celine wanted to argue. But certainty was a luxury they'd exhausted. She thought of Elias. Of the incomplete code. Fine, she said quietly. We fire. But I'm entering additional safety protocols first. Will such protocols function? Shervan asked. Honestly? I have no idea. Celine returned to her console. Her fingers moved with mechanical precision. Safety protocols established, she finally announced. Nullifier matrix ready for deployment. Shervan moved to the central command station. Human and Zephyr, united in one final gamble. On my mark, he said. 3, Shervan counted. 2. 1. Mark. He pressed the activation sequence. The weapon hummed. The ancient fragments guided the pulse toward their makers. It's working, she whispered. The pulse fired. It crossed the distance to the Kepler sector in seconds. And then the universe screamed. Alarms erupted. The nullifier matrix didn't stop firing. It couldn't stop. The pulse mutated. Power output exceeding projections by 300%. Prophet Torres shouted. Shut it down. Celine lunged. Nothing responded. The ancient components had taken control. Through the viewport, she witnessed the horror. The Proxima system simply ceased to exist. Erased. The weapon tore a void in spacetime. My God, Celine breathed. The collapsing event horizon was still expanding. They'd created a weapon to destroy the universe. Emergency shutdown protocols ineffective, Prophet Torres reported. The ancient components are self-sustaining. They're drawing energy from other universes? Celine asked. Affirmative. The nullifier matrix has become parasitic. Until it consumes everything. Celine shook. Shervan, I need your security override codes. Already attempted, Shervan said grimly. The fusion is complete. An entity they couldn't control was devouring reality. Celine's vision blurred. This was her fault. The comm system crackled. Admiral Shervan, this is Subcommander Vrak. The transmission cut to static. The engineering bay doors exploded inward. Subcommander Vrak led Zephyr soldiers. Their armor bore hardline faction markers. Admiral Zarek Shervan, Vrak announced in Zephyr. You are relieved of command. You allied with humans. You allowed this primitive, he spat the word at Celine, to construct a weapon that destroys entire star systems. The ancients are the threat, Vrak. Not humanity. The ancients are a problem we will solve with pure Zephyr science. Surrender the weapon, human. The weapon can't be stabilized, Celine said through clenched teeth. It's autonomous now. Human lies. Vrak gestured to his soldiers. Seize her. Shervan dove toward the nearest console, activating emergency lockdown protocols. Defensive positions. Shirvan roared. The space erupted with plasma bolts. Celine threw herself behind her console. Through the chaos, Celine heard a deep, thrumming pulse. "They're here," she whispered. Ancient ships materialized. They were coming to prune the weed. "Hull breach, starboard section." Prophet Torres called. The ancients are using localized gravity manipulation. They were trapped. Mutineers in front. Ancients behind. And between them, a weapon devouring the universe. Celine accessed the construct's interface. "I need help. Please. Tell me how to stop this." The response came as pure mathematical terror. The code was wrong. The weapon required a biological catalyst to function properly. The weapon required a sacrifice. Her sacrifice. A plasma bolt struck her console. Elias was telling her the only way to control the nullifier matrix was to complete what he'd started. She would die. But the galaxy would survive. Celine pulled herself upright. The decision crystallized. She was going to die. "Torres," she shouted. "I need you to establish a direct neural interface. A biological connection." "I understand. Do it." Prophet Torres's void-black eyes fixed on her. Recognition. Understanding. Compliance, the prophet said quietly. Chapter 4, The Price of Gods. The nullifier matrix's core burned white-hot. Celine stood before it, her scorched armor plate hanging loose. The heat was immense. The engineering bay's emergency lighting cast everything in harsh red. The golden mist pressed against the void piercer's hull. Celine's fingers trembled as she reached for the neural interface. "Trust yourself, Cell." She pressed her palms against the interface. Pain exploded through her nervous system. The nullifier matrix seized her consciousness. And she was Elias. His presence surrounded her. The price, though. The goddamn price. She understood the hidden architecture of his final act. Completion required a voluntary death. A conscious cessation. She must physically die to trigger the weapon. Dr. Celine Doran was about to complete it. Prophet Torres monitored the readouts. "Dr. Doran, the biological threshold requires, I understand." "How much time?" "Hull breach imminent. 90 seconds, maximum." 90 seconds. Enough time to reconsider. The ancient struck her mind. Pure, crystallized intention. They showed her the garden. No waste. No chaos. They showed her Elias's death as pruning. Necessary correction. What's the point? What's any of this for? She watched human cruisers vaporize. The golden mist spread. Admiral Shivan's voice cut through the calm. "Dr. Doran, we're losing containment. 3 minutes. Can you give us 3 minutes?" The ancients pressed harder. So easy to surrender. "Elias. Please. I can't do this alone." His presence wrapped around her. "You're not alone." Love wasn't logical. It was chaos and inefficiency and beautiful, terrible irrationality. Celine Doran opened her eyes. Her hand closed around the life support override. "Torres," she said quietly. "Engage full system integration." "Compliance," Torres whispered. "It has been an honor, Dr. Doran." Admiral Shivan's voice crackled again. "Tell them I'm sorry," she said. Tell them it was worth it." The override engaged. Celine felt her suit's life support shutting down. Her augmented heart struggled. "I'm scared." "I know. Me too." Her heart stuttered. Skipped a beat. Ancient gravity beams tore through the void piercer's hull. Her heart beat one final time. Stopped. The nullifier matrix screamed. Energy erupted outward. Celine's consciousness was torn from her body. She was dying. She was dead. She was everywhere. The code Captain Elias Grant had started unfolded. Beautiful. Terrifying. Perfect. Cell, Elias. They fused. His mathematical certainty merged with her intuitive comprehension. The nullifier matrix stabilized. They existed together. Love and absolute purpose. The weapon fired. A beam of pure, concentrated energy lanced forth. It tore through conventional spacetime. It struck ancient ships and dissolved them. The golden mist evaporated. The massive organic ships winked out of existence entirely. The ancients were gone. Admiral Shervan gripped the viewport frame, his violet eyes wide with terror. He moved, his leg dragging. At the central console, Dr. Doran's armor stood empty. Her body was entirely consumed. Only her wedding ring remained, suspended on its chain. Shervan stared at the empty shell. Prophet Torres approached. Her pupils contracted, returning to human proportions. The connection. It severed. She collapsed. The remaining prophets collapsed instantly. Their connection to the ancients was severed forever. You survived, Lieutenant, Shervan said. You survived because she gave you the chance. He turned to the viewport. Space looked wrong. Stars flickered in patterns that violated astronomical records. Reality had paid the price. Sir. We're receiving distress signals. Navigation systems are failing galaxy-wide. Chaos, Shervan finished quietly. Yes. I understand. Admiral Zarek Shervan straightened. This is Admiral Shervan to all human and Zephyri forces. The ancient threat has been eliminated. Dr. Celine Doran sacrificed herself. The cost was everything. Human and Zephyri officers worked side by side now. Necessity forcing cooperation. The universe itself had been scarred. Admiral. A human lieutenant approached. Human command structures want to negotiate terms of surrender. Zephyri High Council is requesting strategic consultation. As the only leader they have left, Shervan finished. Yes. I anticipated this. Transmit the following message, Shervan ordered. Admiral Zarek Shervan assumes interim joint command of both species' military forces. Third priority is construction of a monument. For Dr. Doran. For Captain Grant. Torres approached. Sir, the ancient components are still broadcasting. Like an apology. Which says that they understand now. That love isn't a systemic error to be corrected. Shervan absorbed this in silence. Noted in the official record, he said. Future generations must understand what occurred here. For the first time in 70 Zephyri years, Admiral Zarek Shervan understood humility. We will remember, he whispered to the void. The void piercer continued forward, limping through a shattered universe.